رمضان تجلى وابتسم طوبى للعبد إذا اغتنم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الرحمن الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان. الشمس والقمر بحسبان والنجم والشجر يسجدان. والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان. ألا تطغوا في الميزان وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان. الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان. الشمس والقمر بحسبان والنجم والشجر يسجدان. والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان. والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان ألا تطغوا في الميزان وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان والأرض وضعها للأنام فيها فاكهة والنخل ذات الأكمام والحب ذو العصف والريحان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والشمس وضحاها والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها والنهار إذا جلاها والليل إذا يغشاها والسماء وما بناها والأرض وما طحاها ونفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها قد أفلح من زكاها وقد خاب من دساها كذبت ثمود بطغواها إذ انبعث أشقاها فقال لهم رسول الله ناقة الله وسقياها فكذبوا فعقروها فدمدم عليهم ربهم بذنبهم فسواها ولا يخاف عقباها صدق الله مولانا العلي العظيم.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Tonight is the night of the 16th. So the 16th juz, it begins with the end of Surah Al-Kahf. Surah Al-Kahf, we know, we're familiar with Surah Al-Kahf because we read it inshallah every Friday, as is the Sunnah. And it contains several stories. Of course, the story of the people of the Kahf is for which the surah is named. But in this part of the juz, or in this, the end of Surah Al-Kahf, is the story of Musa alayhi salam and Al-Khidr alayhi salam. Musa and the Khidr. So Moses alayhi salam, by the way, do you know what Moses is, what his name is? What's Moses' name? Anybody? Musa, right? But Musa is min ma', from water, because he was found in the Nile. But do you guys know who Moses' name is? What his name is? I'll tell you. Remind me afterwards. I tell you where Moses' name is from. Musa alayhi salam meets the Khidr because his people asked him if there's anybody that's more knowledgeable. So he said, I'm the most knowledgeable because I'm a Rasul. So, there's this guy. So anyway, long story short, he meets Al-Khidr. Al-Khidr, the ulama are of different opinions, whether he is from the Salihin or whether he's from the Anbiya. The opinion that I follow is he is from the Anbiya. And actually, Imam Ibn Hajar, radiallahu anhu, he has a whole biography of Al-Khidr in his encyclopedia of the Sahaba, Al-Isaba. Like a 100-page biography of Al-Khidr. And Al-Khidr, one of the things about him is that he lives for a long time. He still lives amongst us. And he appears, in these odd, peculiar stories to teach a certain lesson. So Moses is like, I want to spend some time with you and I want to learn from what you have been given. So Al-Khidr, he tells Musa alayhi salam, you're not going to be, لَن تَسْتَطِيعَ مَعَيَ صَبَرًا. You are not going to be able to be patient with me. At the end of the story, Al-Khidr tells Musa, I'm going to tell you about that which you were not patient, but he doesn't use the form of the verb tastatiya. He says, مَا لَمْ تَسْتَعْ عَلَيْهِ صَبْرًا. So why does he say tastatiya in the beginning, and why does he shorten the verb at the end? In sarf, in morphology in the Arabic language, when you add letters to a verb, usually you add meaning. الزيادة في المبنى زيادة في المعنى غالبا. So therefore, تستطيع has more meaning. There's something more in that meaning than تستطيع. And we'll talk about that at the end of the story. So keep that in mind. So now I owe you two things. I owe you Moses' name and this difference between the two verbs. So the first thing, so Moses, he's like, I can hang out with this guy, no problem. I can be patient. I'm a prophet. I know how to be patient. But what the Khidr does is unbelievable. He tries to poke holes in the boat. He kills a young man, not a boy, by the way, a young man. Ghulam, he's in the sin of al-murahaqa. He's like a young teenager. Not that he was like an infant child, as some people mistranslate or misthink. And then he built this wall. Now, on the outward, all of us, we would be, maybe after the killing of the teenager, we would have run, right? We wouldn't have lasted even beyond that. Maybe many of us with the poking of the holes in the boat. But when the Khidr starts to tell him why he did all of these things, it starts to make sense. And that's the point, one of the points of the story is that everything that is apparent, every zahir has a batin. Every zahir, every apparent thing has a hidden meaning. And one of the things of religion is to teach us how to deal with both of those at the same time. Because we do not say that the batin, what is hidden, is more superior or outdoes what is apparent. Even though there are some Muslim groups throughout Muslim history who have tried to do that. A batini is a type of movement that you find if you study Islamic sects, S-E-C-T-S, sects, not the other, what you think I'm saying. If you study Islamic sects, there are these batini movements where they see that all of the things that we do, the salat and the siyam and the wudu and all of that, that's superfluous. Once you get to the batin, once you get to the real good stuff, you don't need the zahir. And that's haram because then you lose your Islam altogether. But the point of the story is to show us why you need both at the same time. And that's what the deen is. The deen is to teach us how do you deal with the outward and how you deal with the inward. First of all, you need a lot of patience. Now for us, the takeaway for us is that many times things happen in our lives and we don't know the hikmah, we don't know why that happens that way. But if we are patient and we observe, we will see behind it, there was some kind of manfa', there was some kind of benefit. In Arabic, we say, كُلِّ تَأْخِيرَ فِيهَا خِيرَ. Every delay in it is good, as an expression to help make us patient when something bad happens. I don't know why this happened now, that's bad. Maybe there's an accident, or maybe there's a job loss, or maybe somebody passed away, or the pandemic, or we don't know why. And if you try to answer that question right away, you're not going to be able to answer it. But if you remember this story and you pause, you will know that there is a hikmah behind it. And the way to track that hikmah is you have to be patient. Musa alayhi salam was not able to be patient because outwardly what the Khidr did was haram. He's destroying property. He killed an innocent young man. Or maybe the wall thing wasn't necessarily haram, but why would you help a town that wouldn't even give you food and drink? We all would have justifiably thought that was ridiculous. But the Khidr says, I didn't do this because of me. I did this because of the wahy, because of the revelation I gave. And that's why many of the ulama say that the Khidr was a prophet, alayhi salam, because he received this revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do 1, 2, 3. So for us, we need that patience to understand why things happen the way that they happen. Don't think that things happen to you randomly. We don't believe in the randomness of the universe because we believe the universe has al-Khaliq, has a creator. And for us, the creator is creating at every moment. Kun fayakun, kun fayakun. Nothing happens. Ma yakunu fil kawni illa ma yurid. Nothing happens in the universe, in the created world, except that Allah Ta'ala wills it. So when something striking happens to you, always teach yourself to pause, to observe what is the reason behind it. And when you understand the reason behind it, and then you can link those two together, you might end up saying, Alhamdulillah, that happened. Because you do not know the trajectory that your life was going to go. What are the two things that I owe you? Oh, the verb. لَن تَسْتَطِيعَ مَعَيَ صَبْرًا. لَن تَسْتَطِيعَ, you are not going to be able to, without any aid, without any explanation, you are not going to be able to understand what I'm about to do. مَا لَمْ تَسْتَعْ عَلَيْهِ صَبْرًا. I am going to explain to you now that which you needed explanation for. So the first meaning, the first verb, the extra meaning is you can't be patient without any tools. But now because Musa alayhi salam was not able to be patient, he needs an explanation. He needs a tool. And this is from the richness of the language of the Quran. So Allah Ta'ala uses the other form of the verb, لَمْ تَسْتَعْ عَلَيْهِ صَبْرًا, because now the Khidr is going to give an explanation. So it wouldn't have made sense that he used the same verb and gave an explanation, but the verb is reduced in its letters because he is about to give the explanation, and he does. The next series of verses, the Khidr explains the boat was for the Masakin, and there was a king or a sultan behind them on the oceans, and he was going to take and confiscate it. So he deformed it a little bit so they would be saved. The young man, he was going to grow up to be a crooked person. Allah knew that his parents would have other children, so Allah Ta'ala ordered him to do that. And in the wall, tahtahu kanzu, there was a treasure beneath it that belonged to the orphans that they would benefit from, so on and so forth. So this is, whenever you find a verb and you think that they are the same, even later in the Quran, in that same surah, in the story of Dhul Qarnayn, the verse will come to me now. Same thing where there's a shortened verb and a longer verb. What else did I say I owe you? Moses, okay. But that's going to require a financial contribution to ICCP. No, that's haram. I can't do that. But I can encourage you to contribute. One of the biggest haram things is that you sell your knowledge. My teachers used to say that's like that's the lowest thing you can ever do. Anyway, so Musa alayhi salam. In the 1920s, there was this very big Hanafi sheikh in Egypt. His name was Sheikh Muhammad Bakhit al-Muti'i, a very odd name. And he actually was the Mufti of Egypt. Sheikh al-Bakhit, he was one of these, prodigy people. He was very, so he grew up, he was a Maliki, because most of Egypt in the south, they follow the Maliki madhab. At that time in the 19-teens and the 1920s, the Sharia courts in Egypt, because they were somehow linked with the Ottoman courts, they were Hanafi. So when Sheikh Bakhit realized that he could never be a judge, he switched madhabs at a later age, and he mastered another madhab. And I say that to show you that that's difficult. It's not easy to spend 10, 15 years studying one system of law and then switching. Sheikh Bakhit, radiallahu anhu, he was, and I feel very close to Sheikh Bakhit because I spent like a whole year on my thesis. One of my chapters is on Sheikh Bakhit, so I got to know him very well. So he went to the barber shop, and the one that's narrating the story is a younger man, and this younger man is the sheikh of my sheikh. So this is where the story comes from. So Sheikh Bakhit, he noticed that the young boy, he was Jewish, and he had very nice hair. He was had like a mirror in his pocket, and he was like brushing his hair. So Sheikh Bakhit said, "Oh yeah, you like to keep your hair well?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "You're Jewish." He's like, "Yeah, maybe his name was Dawood or something like that." And he said to him, Nabiullah Musa, the prophet Moses. What does Moses mean? He said, "Oh, min ma, from water, because of when his mother cast him in the water." So Sheikh Bakhit said, yeah, but what's his name? His name is Musa. He said, no, Musa is a description. What's his name? Like his formal name. If he had like a document, what would be his name? So the boy said, "I don't know, in our religion, we don't have a name. His name is Moses." So Sheikh Bakhit said his name is Walid. When Fir'aun says to Moses, we not raise you? Walida in the verse, the normal understanding of the word means, didn't we raise you since you are walad, since you were a young boy? But Sheikh Bakhit understood that that's actually his name. That Fir'aun, this is just ijtihad. I wanted to spark everyone's attention so you pay attention to what I'm saying. So Sheikh Bakhit, his ijtihad is that Moses' name was Walid from this verse. Now, is this correct or not correct? It's just ijtihad. But the point is look how rich the Quran can be and how it can unfurl itself, its meanings to you. How many times have you read the story of Moses and read about Fir'aun and Musa and heard this verse and never ever thought that this was Moses' name? But for him, he read it now. When you hear the verse, you'll think twice. Maybe that was his name. Maybe his formal name was Walid, and Musa is just an adjective. Alayhi salam. Anyway, آخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله.